Hi. Whether you're a global multinational, an individual one-person business, or a sports team, outperforming teams tend to have many of the same ingredients. The recipe's not always the same, but many of the ingredients tend to be the same. And it starts with 5 cornerstones. The mechanical cornerstones, the mission, the vision, the strategy, and the 2 cornerstones for people, purpose, and the desired behaviours and mindsets, the desired culture inside the organisation. And then there's a whole bunch of mechanics, the mechanics of having the right people, the right management, the management get along and work together as a unit, the processes actually work. Then there's a whole bunch of stuff tapping into emotion, the people side of business that's so often forgotten in this left brain mechanical world that we operate in. The key fuel that really drives the mechanical and task business ecosystem of driving shareholder returns and managed risk is, in many ways, this fuel is confidence. If we're a leader, and all of us in our own way are leaders, then we have a responsibility to seed the confidence of others. If those others are working with us, then in many ways they're not going to do a very good job if they don't feel confident. So it's on us to seed the confidence of other people. Outperforming teams create a culture that works. Habits and practices bind the team, so things like we all cook lunch together, or we have joint team activities, or we have a barbecue every Friday night. Wales, the football team that did so well at Euro 2016, one of their sort of practices is to just line up for wacky pre-match team photographs instead of the sort of standard boring pose that most international football teams line up for. The All Blacks, the most successful sports team in history, the New Zealand rugby team, they go and actually sweep out their dressing room. They get the brushes out and they clean up after themselves. It's really keeping them anchored and grounded. The way managers deal with people who are perhaps a little bit disenfranchised. Gallup did a survey in 2017 when they actually discovered that across the world's workplace, only 15% are highly enthusiastic and involved in their work and workplace. Only 15% of the workplace are fully engaged. Imagine the potential if we could get the other 85% fully engaged. And Gallup's work also told us that the organisations that tended to perform better financially actually had better engaged employees. So clearly there was a correlation between employee engagement and the performance of the business. There's a number of other things. There's lack of fear of failure. For individuals, they need to feel that their work is valued, that they have recognition. It might be pay rises, it may be pats on the back. Often it's not about money, by the way. Valued, safe, that they're not going to get bawled out or humiliated by their boss. And they also need to feel they're in a role that plays to their strengths. They're in a culture that they buy into. They buy into the values. They don't feel uncomfortable. There's no cliques that are getting in their way. I call it cultural VSE. V for valued, S for safe, and E for engaged. And many outperforming teams use trademarks as a way of attaching emotion to what they do. The Australian Netball Diamonds team, Lisa Alexander, who's the coach there, she has trademarks for everything. She has trademarks for her coaching program, for her management team, for her team. Her team have a trademark called Sisters in Arms. So there's a visual of the team lining up, linking arms during the national anthem, and it came out of one of the players turning around and saying that whenever they played for the Australian Netball Diamonds, very successful netball team, it felt like they were playing with their sisters in arms. And of course the association of the anthem and that visual of the linking the arms heightens the emotion levels, and of course that's a key part of that team bonding and that culture. Most successful leaders, you'll find, have had tremendous setbacks. Individual adversities can really drive us on. Some leaders interviewed, they'll tell you that they always feel that their greatest successes come after their darkest hours. So if we get all these things in place, a team then needs time to bond, a time to go on a journey itself. The most successful teams often have worked together for many years. The Beatles got great in a little club in Liverpool in Matthew Street called the Cavern. Then they became renowned in Liverpool, and finally there's a park bench in Kazakhstan which has the Beatles and Beatles music playing out 24 hours a day. That's how popular they were. So they went from street acclaim to city acclaim to, pretty much the whole of the world. So that was time that bonded that team. They got better and better and better, more camaraderie, more confident in what they were doing because they been through the practices and what they needed to do their role time after time after time. Time really bonds, but it also gives the opportunity for collective adversity. When that team has gone through journeys, emotional roller coasters of things have gone really well, things have gone really badly, and they've worked together and they've worked through them, that can really help bond a team. I remember one organisation, they were on the brink of bankruptcy. The CEO, who was part of it, he was in a corporate group, and this corporate group were going to pull the plug on this organisation. The CEO went out, raised some money, told his team he was going to raise some money, he was going to put his house on the line to preserve their jobs, try and make this company work. And as a result of that, the team really moved together, and they worked through some tremendously tough times over the 2 years that followed, because they really did bootstrap it. And now, 6-7 years on, that team is an incredibly solid unit because of the highs and the lows, the roller coaster that they went through. Wales, once again, in terms of the Euros in 2016, the fans were so emotional when the team qualified, and then when the team got to their first tournament game. Now, why was that? Well, the reason was there's a sense of national pride and identity, so that was clear. But there's also a sense that they'd been on such a long journey with this team, and so many near misses, so much disappointment. So many times they'd seen other nations participate at big tournaments, and the Welsh team wasn't there, and the Welsh supporters missed out. That it was just such a pride-filled occasion, and they'd been through so much together, that there was an incredible bond was formed. Once you've given it time, a sense of family over time can really start to build. Steve Hansen, who was the All Blacks coach, he had to defend claims in the press because he talked about loving the players that played in his team. I mean, they went through so many highs and lows, and then of course, you know, all the emotion of players being dropped or injured or missing out on big games, or, you know, failures at the final hurdle. All these little instances, they drive a humanity and a bonding that starts to make a successful and an outperforming team feel like a family. And he used the word love several times, and he's accused in the New Zealand press of being namby-pamby. And this is like a big burly former policeman, you know, one of the world's probably most successful rugby coach. That's how love evolves in a team environment, a cultural environment, and it's that emotion that can overcome so many things. I remember the Iceland football team, when they qualified for the 2016 European Championships, they were the smallest nation ever to qualify for European Championships. They'd never done it before, but they did it off the back of 2 years prior. They had a really narrow miss, so they had the huge disappointment that preceded it. These are incredibly bonding forces. Love amongst the teammates evolves as a result of that, and trust, a tremendous amount of trust. And after time, over time, as this unit's got more and more solid, eventually luck starts to evolve, luck starts to emerge. No successful team is successful without luck. But it's amazing, you put these things in place and somehow, from somewhere, luck emerges. And I personally think that it's actually really and truly got nothing to do with coincidence. They just put the right factors in place and increase the likelihood of getting some happy coincidence that that contributes towards their success. So if we kind of wind through all of this, we start off with the cornerstones, and then we have all the mechanical stuff. We get people playing in position, the right people, the right management, the processes, they don't drain people so people can actually do their jobs. And then we put all the right stuff in place around the culture and the team bonding, and we've given it time, plenty of time. Time for a journey, time for the roller coaster, time for this emotional bonding. And then luck suddenly emerges. And of course, once we've got all these things right, guess what? The market changes. We've got to start again. So all successful outperforming teams, they tend to have a high spot, then they'll start to have a little bit of a low for a period of time, and it's time for reinvention, and it's time for change. So another and final key part of those cultural requirements in outperforming teams is an ability to adapt, an ability to deal with change. I hope you found that helpful. Cheers. The ingredients for it's all about S for safeguarded, safe. So if we get all these things in place, Management style. Management style is really important. And many task work world, the mission, the vision, the mission, the vision,